Greetings, everyone. My name is Jonathan Bailey, and I'm from the site Plagiarism Today, which can be found at plagiarismtoday.com. And today I'm doing something a little bit unusual for me. Usually I record these videos the morning of, so it's all spontaneous and, it's whatever's on my brain as I first woke up that morning. But today I'm actually recording it on Friday to go live Monday because I have my thoughts more in order on this one, and frankly, I'm upset enough to the point I want to make sure some of the anger comes through a little bit, at least a smidge of it. I learned today, I don't know when this was actually announced, but I just learned of it today, that the U.S. Copyright Office is seeking public comment on a proposed rate hike. Specifically, it's looking to raise the rates of copyright registrations filed electronically from $35 to $65, and for paper registrations from $64, I think it is, to $100. I'm most interested in the electronic rates because most people do file electronically now. This is extremely infuriating, and I'll explain why. From an intellectual standpoint, I want to be completely honest. I don't think we should be doing copyright registrations. No other nation in the world has a copyright office where you have to go and register your work to receive certain protections on it like you do in the U.S. There's severe and I think unanswered questions of whether or not that is compliant with the Berne Convention and various other treaties we're members of. It puts American copyright holders at a disadvantage because if you're international, you don't have to do this. You still have the right to sue and so forth, even if you don't have that registration. You don't have that if you're a U.S. citizen. It's just a stupid system, and it puts poor and unknowledgeable copyright holders at a tremendous disadvantage. So I'm against the registration system from the outset. And I think that the registration system we do have is outmoded. It does not work well in the age of the internet. The terminology, the structure of it, even with an online registration system like the ecosystem, it does not mesh well for bloggers and people who post works online. And even if you are posting things, publishing books or doing things that fit well with the system we have, you're still going through a lot of hassle, a lot of trouble, and a lot of expense too. I mean, $35, it might be cheap if you spend a few $1,000s on an album, but if you're scraping together money for studio time, it can be a pretty big expense. So it's expensive, it's time consuming, it's irrelevant, and the list of complaints goes on. And so to have the U.S. Copyright Office come forth today and say that they feel they deserve or they should be able to charge nearly twice as much for an electronic registration, $65 for an electronic online registration. That is insane. Look at services like MyOs and Safe Creative. They do sort of non-official, it's called non-repudiation. They provide this service. Both offer free accounts, and both for the pro accounts, it's a low, flat monthly fee. It's only a few bucks. It's extremely cheap, and it's extremely easy. I cannot fathom how, if the USCO were a private company, they'd be out of business. They'd be gone. Because the only reason people are doing this at all is because, let's face facts here, let's just call it what it is. The copyright registration system we have is an extortion scheme. It is an extortion scheme by which if you do not pay the money, do not complete the registration, you lose certain rights to your work that you might not be able to get, but that you'll probably never be able to recover. You won't be able to sue until you file the registration, and if you don't register before you get that, for that first infringement happens, you lose the ability to get statutory damages and attorney's fees, which pretty much makes suing for copyright infringement financially infeasible because it all feeds through the federal court system, which is insanely expensive and insanely difficult to work with. So it's an extortion scheme. There's just a nice way to say it. And the embarrassing part is it's an extortion scheme that doesn't make money. The U.S. Copyright Office loses money every year. It's one of the reasons why they're wanting to raise the rates. They lose money every year. They spent millions creating this electronic registration system that probably could have been programmed by any competent guy, any competent programmer in a weekend. And the worst part of all is the service the U.S. Copyright Office provides is terrible. One of my clients registered their site back in 2009, before I even knew them. They heard back just last month saying that there was a problem with the registration. For those keeping score at home, that's 3 years. Likewise, a company I worked for 3 years ago, was employed by them. I filed a registration for them at about the same time. I just heard back too. Same deal, same letter. And in both cases, the error in registration had to do with the fact that in both cases, the copyright date on the HTML code did not match the publication date, and that in both cases it was because the company involved didn't update their copyright, copyright information on their site. And that's a pretty common problem. I mean, I'm pretty religious about it myself. I actually have it coded into the site to update automatically. But the point is, they had issues with the copyright date not matching on the HTML, not matching what was in the registration. And so I'm working on both of those cases right now. But service is terrible. I mean, it's a terrible shame when GoDaddy has service that's hundreds of times faster and many times cheaper and better than yours. That's just like the worst slap in the face I can give a company or an organization. Frankly, I think we should ditch the registration system completely, but if we can't do that, we have two options as far as I'm concerned. One, we could simply make registration either free or incredibly cheap and use all this glorious technology. We're in 2012, people. We have RSS feeds, we have pinging services, we have automatic updating, pull and push technology. I mean, I can get push alerts to my phone, but, you know, I can't push something to the Copyright Office. This is insanity. Let's use the technology we have, make it simple, make it cheap, and make it so that it's approachable by absolutely everyone. If we can't do that, then let's drop the registration requirement for electronic-only items, things that are only posted on the internet, only posted legitimately on the internet. Drop the registration requirement for them, give them either full copyright protection, or at the very least give them a separate system, like a copyright small claims court that they can go through to defend their work, and then leave that registration requirement only to things that are published in physical form, because let's face facts, that's where the system seems to work its best and where it is most desired, because the whole point of it realistically isn't to make money. It's to have registered copies of everything published for the Library of Congress at the end of the day. That's what it's really about. That's the main benefit, if you will, of the system. So if that's the benefit, then let's just do it, because I don't see that being as much of a benefit in the age of the internet. But hey, if that's what we're trying to do, then let's just make sure that physical publications wind up there and forget about electronic stuff, because it's too much headache and the system sucks for it, frankly. So yeah, they want to charge double for the terrible service they've been providing, the god-awful ecosystem they programmed, and all this stuff just because they are that incompetent and that stupid. I was really hoping that this new Register of Copyrights would shake things up, but Maria Plenty is just too old guard, and she's not making the necessary changes. In fact, if you discount the acting registers of copyright, we've only had 3 registers of copyright since I was born in 1980. That's 32 years, 3 full-time registers of copyrights. Think about how many presidents we've had in that time. Well, I'm sorry, I'm going way over. I try to keep these at 5 minutes. I'm already at 8:30, I can tell. So I apologize for going over, but actually this is a subject that really angers me, really upsets me, and you know, it's just, come on, Copyright Office, get your act together. This is completely ridiculous, and by doubling the rate, you're just making it that much more ridiculous. This has gotten into completely insane territory, and I'm not some rah-rah anti-government type, but I'm starting to understand a little bit. Well, on that note, everyone, my name is Jonathan Bailey, and I am now officially signing off.